Hey guys, it's President Evil for Zombie. Today I'm going to do a quick tutorial on the ACF system using engines, transmission, and also the E2 that controls everything. This tutorial is not going to be over the making of the car itself. I'll provide you with this. Basically, I made this earlier today. It has an elastic suspension and nothing very nice. As you can tell, it's really bouncy and not that realistic, but it works for our purposes here. And it has a simple hydraulic steering with A and D powered by a pod controller that's linked to the chair. So when we're all done here, we'll have a vehicle that we can get in, and with W and S I can control the throttle. Mouse 1 makes the gear go up and mouse 2 makes the gear go down, and shift is the clutch. So just using W here, I can, every time it gets a high RPM revs, I can just left click mouse and it will make the gear go up so I can go faster, of course. And yeah, so it's a very simple vehicle, nothing too amazing. So this is what I'll provide you with, a dupe in the description of this video. You're going to need Advanced Duplicator 2 because that is a newer version. It's on the workshop, and basically it saves all the information of the entities that you need, and it's a more updated version of the older Advanced Duplicator. So yeah, just go in there, I'll show you, I'll provide this base vehicle, just spawn it, and then here you are. You can get in and steer, that's about it, but we'll make it drivable. So freeze that in midair, and first actually I'm going to just get the E2 spawning out of the way. I will also have the E2 in the description so you don't need to do any coding yourself. Just select ACF under E2, and if you can see, the model actually has a little texture where the arrow is pointing this way, straight ahead, and I believe that the car has to be actually pointed towards that arrow. It might not, but just for good luck, let's spawn it there, and I'm using Smart Snap. If I hold down E, and it'll lock on to a grid, so it's very accurate. So now the arrow is pointed forwards, we can aim this car back to whatever it was. Basically, that ACF chip, that E2 expression chip, is going to control our throttle and everything about the engine and stuff. So now, if you don't already have ACF, I'll also have a link in the description to that, but I assume you do. Go down to your ACF menu tool under construction. This is the only ACF tool we'll use in the whole tutorial. And to find an engine, go under mobility, engines, and let's see, I'll probably use a V8 for this tutorial just because it's a mid-size engine and it works fine. Just left click to spawn one, and let's orientate it to the car, kind of. And you can see here the connector is that. In a real life, that would be connected to the drive shaft, or something that would be connected to the drive shaft, and then drive shaft would go back to the transmission. But let me spawn that there. And this is a rear wheel drive car, not a front wheel drive. So I'm going to have the engine in the front and the transmission in the back. Let me use the precision tool, it's also in the workshop, to weld this to the vehicle, just in the front somewhere. That looks nice. And here you can see we want this connector to be pointed towards the back because that's where theoretically the drive shaft would be. And let me just no collide this to everything so there's no weird collisions going on. And now we need to spawn the actual, go back to the ACF menu tool and minimize engines, because now we need to go to gearboxes. And I'm gonna do a 6-speed just because it's a good range. 6-speed isn't too much, isn't too small. And this may look daunting at first. You see that 6-speed has like 50 options for you to choose from, more like 20. But basically, I'm going to use a transaxial, whatever you want to pronounce it, transmission, because that implies that it's powering 2 wheels in the back, and that's what I want to do. So I'm going to choose a 6-speed transaxle medium. If you look at the statistics on the medium, it says torque rating of 1,360 pounds per feet, I believe that is. And this engine only outputs 320 pounds per feet or so. So this is definitely rated high enough, a medium. Even a small might be fine, but just to be safe, I'm going to use the medium transmission here. And let's see, let's move it down to where we kind of want to put it. And the props are kind of in the way in the car, so let me get the no collide tool, right click so that it doesn't collide with anything, and then I can kind of just put this in here wherever I want. Looks about right. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't matter if it's offset a little bit. So let's weld this to the base of the car. Make sure you don't weld it to the drive shaft or it won't be able to turn anymore. Oops. So now we need to let the engine know what it's connected to, which is this gearbox. So go back to the ACF menu tool, right click the engine, and now right click this gearbox, and you'll see at the bottom right it says link successful. And now we need to let this gearbox know what wheels it's going to turn. So right click the gearbox, right click just anywhere on the wheel, and then right click the gearbox again and right click the other wheel. So now you'll see at the bottom it said link successful for both of those. So now that works, everything is connected there. So now we need to do all of the wiring stuff. So go to the top right wire tab and scroll down to the bottom where the wire advanced tool is, and you'll see if we go over to the engine it says active. Now I'm just going to left click because we already have the active selected, that's what we want to do, and go over to this pod controller here. Basically the pod controller is our controller for when we're inside of the chair. So if I left click on the pod controller, active is already selected, and I left click again. That's telling the engine to be active whenever we're in this chair, whenever this chair is active. Next, we want the throttle. Let's use the scroll wheel to scroll through options, so I'll left click on throttle, and then left click on the E2 chip, and left click again under the throttle option. We want the engine's throttle to be controlled by this chip. The chip is doing all the calculations and hard work for us, so basically that's taken care of. Let's go to this transmission here. We want to make the gears also kind of controlled by the E2, so left click on gear and the gearbox and left click the E2 again, and you'll see gear is already selected, so you can just left click. We want the W on the E2 to be controlled by when we hit W in the chair, so select W by left clicking, select the pod controller, and you'll see at the top W is already selected, and now scroll down to S on the E2 and select the pod controller, and S is already selected, so just left click. And now for me, I like to change gears up and down with my mouse. So I'm going to scroll down to gear up, select the pod controller, and I'm going to make gear up be activated by mouse 1. Now I'll go back to the gearbox, select gear down, select the pod controller again, and select mouse 2. So basically, when I'm in the chair and I left click, it's going to go up a gear, and when I'm in the chair and I right click, it's going to go down a gear. Now the last thing we need to do is the clutch. So just select clutch on here, and you can do whatever key you want. I prefer shift just because it's right next to my pinky, and that's what I like to do for clutch. You won't really be using clutch that much if you're a beginner, so just select shift. That's what I'm going to use, and that's basically it. We have the vehicle. W and S control the throttle, shift controls the clutch. The engine's going to be active when we're inside the chair. So yeah, let's test it. You can hear the engine's on right now, and if I hold down W, you'll see it's going faster, of course. Let me turn here. Now when the engine starts getting at a really high pitch, you'll know, of course, if you've driven a car before, that's time to time to shift to the next gear. So be driving forward and then left click to go to the next gear. Basically it just acts like a normal vehicle, and you want to be in a lower gear when you're going up slopes, but oops, let's say we're going straight here. and like it's to a high pitch again. That's kind of one way to tell. Left click and it'll go to the next gear. So yeah, it just acts like a normal vehicle. And yeah, it's handles alright, well enough for this tutorial. So if I get out of the vehicle, you'll see it has suspension and it has everything. And it's actually powered by an engine, unlike thrusters, so it acts like a vehicle. Anyways, yeah, thanks for watching. This has been an basic ACF tutorial for GarrysMod.